day, everyone, and welcome to my personal list of the worst Magic cards of all time. This is not an ordered list, as there's not really an objective way to rank how horrible they are, but they do tend to get worse as the list goes on. Subscribe, and we'll start the video. Mindless Null. Honestly, Mindless Null is not really as bad as the other cards on this list. It's just a 2/2 for 3 that usually can't block, but that's all it is, and that's all it's ever going to be. It's not part of a wacky combo, it doesn't have hidden synergy with anything, it can't do anything fancy, it's just an inefficient creature, and that makes it frustratingly bad. Viashino Skeleton. An incredibly inefficient creature, Viashino Skeleton has meager stats for its cost, being a 3/1 for 4 mana. It also has the ability to regenerate by paying mana and discarding a card, which was almost certainly better than Viashino Skeleton. Razor Boomerang. Razor Boomerang has often been called the worst equipment in the game, and that's for a good reason. With a truly jaw-dropping rate of 5 mana for 1 damage, it's the least efficient pinger there is. However, it is part of an infinite damage combo, so it can't quite make the truly worst list. Racolite. Racolite is similar to and opposite of Razor Boomerang. This time around you can spend ridiculous amounts of mana to prevent a single damage. Damage prevention is worse than dealing damage in just about every scenario, which does end up making it a little worse. Cyclopean Snare. Finishing off the return to hand trio, it's Cyclopean Snare. This one is not quite as bad as the others due to tapping something being usually a better effect, but you're still paying too much for too little. There are far better versions of this effect on a lot of cards. Alabaster Leech. Have you ever wanted to both cast an entirely unimpressive creature and make it harder to cast your spells? Well, good news! Now you can with Alabaster Leech! Or you can try conceding for largely the same effect. Mudhole. Congratulations! You can exile all lands from a graveyard for only 3 mana! Or, exile all cards from a graveyard for 0 with multiple other cards. Or exile all creatures and gain a ton of life for the same mana. There's not really any reason to use this card. Convalescence. Life gain has never been the best effect in Magic, or even one of them. Being able to pay 5 mana to start gaining 1 life per turn is one of the worst effects in Magic. Being only able to do so if you're already 10 life or below is so comedically horrible that it absolutely ends up on this list. Fasting. Wow, look, it's another bad life gain card. This one is actually kind of a good rate, as it's 10 life for 1 mana, and it just has a few things holding it back. You gain the 10 life over 5 turns, you skip your draw step, and you lose fasting if you draw a card. In almost any situation, drawing a card is better than gaining 2 life, and losing 5 draw steps is nowhere near worth gaining 10 life. Goblin Firebug. I can't really blame this card for being horrible, at least not as much as the others. A red bear without downside used to not exist. However, that doesn't mean the card isn't horrible. Losing a land when it leaves play, not dies, just leaves play, is such a massive downside it renders Goblin Firebug completely unplayable. Embershot. Lightning Bolt is likely the best burn spell of all time, dealing 3 damage to anything for a single red mana. Embershot is not Lightning Bolt. Embershot is 7 times as expensive as Lightning Bolt for the same effect. You also get to draw a card, but that hardly matters when you're using all your mana for a 1 mana effect. Juju Bubble. Here's another fantastically horrible life gain card. It really does come with the whole gamut of bad. It forces you to pay mana just to gain life at a rate of 2 for 1. Forces you to pay mana to keep it alive, a rate which increases every turn, and it doesn't even let you play cards if you want to keep it out. It's a dumpster fire in every way. One with Nothing. And here, of course, is One with Nothing. The classic bad card, it's pretty obvious why. Discarding your own hand is a horrible effect and is useless in basically every situation. Even graveyard decks don't want this, as there are more efficient ways of graveyard filling out there. It was useful sideboard tech in Kamigawa block constructed, and that's it. Pale Moon. You know how good Blood Moon is, right? The nightmare of all non-basics that can single-handedly shut down mana bases if you're not playing red. Well, imagine a version of it that absolutely sucks. A version of it that makes colorless and lasts for 1 turn. Why is that so bad? Opponents can just tap their lands in response to the spell, giving them the mana anyway, which means Pale Moon will effectively do nothing, really. Wood Elemental. Introducing the worst single creature in the entire game, it's Wood Elemental. In order for it to be actually on curve, it will actively set you behind each time you play it. Want to play a 4/4 for 4? Then you better have 8 lands and lose half of them. It does combo well with Titania, but that's only use. Adventurer Cycle. Oh, bands with other, why do you exist? What possessed some designer to create a variant on banding that's somehow even more confusing and far more useless? Why did you feel the need to place 2 restrictions on each of these lands and not even allow them to tap for mana? Why did you wake up one day and decide to make the single worst cycle in the entire game? Perhaps we'll never know. Shelkin Brownie. Wow, speaking of bands with other, here we have the creature with the least relevant text in the entire game. The ability to remove something that no black bordered card naturally has and is only granted by some of the worst cards in the entire game. But it's not the worst card. Sure, it is the worst ability ever, but it's at least a creature. A 1/1 4/1 with a microscopic upside may be terrible, but it's not completely worthless. It can block, it can attack, it's not as bad a rate as Wood Elemental, whatever. Break Open. We've covered bad cards, we've covered horrible cards, and then there's cards that in the majority of cases actually help your opponent. Flipping a morph card will usually result in a better creature, and you can't really tell if it won't. There are some corner cases where the flipped card is smaller, but they are corner cases. However, did you know Break Open is part of a combo with Harmless Offering and Unstable Hulk? That's right. For the low price of 7 mana, 3 cards, and giving your opponent a free 3/3, you can take an extra turn. Fantastic. Great Wall. And here we have it, everyone. The worst card, in my opinion, in Magic. Great Wall is essentially a vanilla enchantment with an effect so small it might as well not even be printed. Do you know how many Planeswalk creatures there are? 4. That's right. 4 creatures out of over 14,000 in the entire game, all of which are horrible cards that nobody plays. Against 99.994% of cards, this will do absolutely nothing, and that is why it's the worst card in the entire game. Well, there's the list. Thank you for watching, and if you feel like I forgot a card, be sure to note it in the comments. Can't get everything.